So what are those weird decks that we didn't mention? Drytron, Flunderies, where do they stand in the modern era for March? Let's go talk about these, shall we? Don't be like the 33.8% of you guys have not smashed Living Crap Out of subscribe button. Please, little diamond heart, will you subscribe for me today? Number one on our list here is Drytron. Now, Drytron underwent a pretty big evolution as of late. Well, Robbie, Drytron's not a good deck, all right? You got Drytron cards, you're trying to sell them. No, I don't have anything really Drytron. I think I have like 2 Novas. Okay, whatever. They evolved and started playing this Megalith package. Now, Megalith package kind of makes these extension boards a little bit better, but let's be honest here, when you have as much resource generation as you actually have and all the free bodies that you can produce for Drytron for, free every turn, they have to be fundamentally good, right? That's how that works. When a deck can generate as much advantage as this build can and really kind of get off kind of scot-free off of couple ban. Hey, they lost Ava, they've lost some of the more consistent pushes they've had, Ben 10 being limited throughout the years here. This deck was a natural prone thing to, I think, see an evolution. And I'm putting it at number 6 in our format here in terms of generalized. Well, I would say it's not truly good enough with the adventure package because this deck can't really, take advantage of a crazy adventure build like the other decks in the format can. But where this deck stands is it can consistently grind, and I'm glad to see that now that things have shifted, now the Drytron can look like a little bit more menacing of a deck at this point in time and kind of scare players a little bit more. And having a deck like this running around in the format, especially, it's not quite tier 2, but it's floating around in 1.5 purgatory, I would say. So that's definitely an interesting thing to really see here because our tier 1 is really extended out here at this point in time. Next up here is going to be Flunderies. Now, I will not put Flunderies at tier 2. Nope. But the deck is not what I would consider better than the Pile decks, Praying Kids, Virtual World, Phantom Knights, or Dragon Link. Can the deck beat those decks? Yes. Will a well-timed adventure engine mess this deck up? Yes. Hand traps aren't necessarily a crazy part of this format. They're there. They're seeing play. Droplets are running around. All right. Here's the thing. If you can mess up a map interruption, or not normal summon, you can do an entire commitment off of a special summon. If you don't have to worry about an M-Pen being a problem, if you win that thing called the dice roll, your matchup against this deck is free. But because Journey exists now, this deck gets a whole new level of hoops that it can dodge through. And when you have a deck that works differently than every other deck in the format, because let's be honest here, when you look at like the way that the rest of the format's going here, and then you look at Flunder, you're like, oh, yeah, this deck is not like the modern era thing here. And I do want to give a little note here that if you've never played against Flunderies before, all right, and I know a lot of players can't take this in, they're like, oh my god, impossible. If you're playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, you've needed to play Flunderies up at this point. Remember, they just got Journey literally a couple weeks ago. So relax on that, ladies and gentlemen. But with that being said, this deck does not function like any other deck. Its searches, its ability to play the game on the opponent's turn, it's encouraged through this deck's card design. And there's not really any other deck in the modern era, besides maybe Monarchs, but Aether is the only real thing, that really engages on that level with the opponent. So do keep that in mind when you're looking at Flunder as a design deck at this point in time, that ability to play the game is honestly its greatest strength. So it's definitely in the middle of tier 1. Next up here is DDD. Now, let's be massively honest here with ourselves for this deck, ladies and gentlemen. DDD Zen boards are insane. They're crazy. Do you need a PhD in rocket science to play this deck? Most Yu-Gi-Oh players would probably say yes. Unironically, it is a very, very, very skill-intensive deck. 100%. All right? We're not going to lie about that. Now, do you need to have a consistent brain to play this deck? Yeah, you do. All right? I'm not making fun of DDD players here by saying, yeah, your deck's crazy, nobody wants to play it. But that's actually the truth behind this. Why would I want to pick up DDD when I can go play something a little bit more brain dead? All right, that's unfortunately the thing that you're kind of seeing in modern era Yu-Gi-Oh here. You know, if you can sit here and go through the 10-minute DDD turns consistently, no problem, and you have every skill line memorized, yeah, that's fine. It's absolutely a massive deck. That's your choice. You can do that. But if I'm going to go play a 10-round event, I'm going to go look at something like, oh, you know, I can go play Praying Kids, and I can do that combo line in 5 minutes, and I can have a more consistent deck, in my opinion. You know, I could go look at Virtual World, and I can, you know, you can look at all these other variants here, and you can do what you would think would be easier on less time with less potential bricks. I'm just saying that the trade-off I think that DDD brings to the table sometimes isn't worth it, but that's not taking away the fact that this deck is not a powerhouse. I think that this deck rides into borderline 1.75 into 2, only because it requires a very good player to curve out the things with this deck, and you need to have a very consistent day and make sure that you're on a lot of sleep to play this deck, or else DDD will crumble around you. Alright, next up here is Sword Soul. This deck is still in 1.5. Or is it, actually? So, when you look at the Brave Synchro Tenyi variant, who plays a very, very small package of what, like one Long Yu, one Tai, maybe, I think they've cut Mo Yi at this point in time, actually. So, when you're looking at those, it's what, like 2 to 3 Sword Soul cards, maybe like some splashable, it depends on like what you want to pull from this, versus the actual Sword Soul deck, which is like the Long Yuns, the Tai-As, the Mo Yis, the Ecclesias. Now, obviously, the Brave Synchro deck is on a different power scaling, in my opinion, but when you come on down here to little old Sword Soul, they lost Desires. This deck was probably the best deck out of last format here, but how the mighty have fallen. What changed from here and then? Well, the answer is actually the Brave package. The Brave package producing an Omni Negate in this format actually is what sent Sword Soul down its spiraling depression as of this point in time. You don't give the chance to make these same devastatingly powerful boards that you once did. And it's really a shame now, because when you see such a devastating shift in the format, ladies and gentlemen, you know, one engine enters into the format, and, you know, Sword Soul, yeah, lost consistency on the last list, sure. But when you see that big of a punch, you know, such a powerful engine coming in, and you knock the power scaling down that much for a deck, yeah, it was, I guess, bound to happen that Sword Soul would just kind of deter here and just kind of fall off the face of the planet. So, anybody surprised about this? Is Sword Soul still a good deck? Yeah, absolutely. You can still do well, but if you're expecting to do well enough consistently, that's an entirely different paradigm, all right? So get that thought out of your head if you think that you're going to see consistent results, because that's not how Yu-Gi-Oh works. And then, last one I want to talk about here is Sky Striker. Sky Striker is in a unique place out of the last YCS when you look at things here, because the deck did make it into top 4, and it was an Adventure Sky Striker package. Well, that's weird. I've been notified by countless people that claim to know Yu-Gi-Oh! And have a PhD in Yu-Gi-Oh! That adventure tokens in Sky Striker, well, that's just a stupid idea. Why would I ever want to do that? Wait, you can make Verte Anaconda off of one activation right of Armesia? Well, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to play Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer in my Sky Striker deck? Well, that's just a horrible idea, says the community. It's a lot better than the one time that they all tried to play Skill Drain in Sky Striker. Yeah, I remember that shit take. Yeah, that was a rough one. So, Sky Striker out here is running around kind of showing people that you can play Brave Token in this deck, but it plays it on a different, interesting level because of Verte Anaconda. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, is this deck a threat now? Yes. Yes, it is. The Adventure Engine gave this deck a different perspective versus the other 3, which gives this deck access to Verte Anaconda. It's strange because, you know, it's almost like the Adventure package kind of warped a lot of things in the modern era format. Oh, well, who would have guessed? Yay, Adventure! You gotta love it. So, guys, what do you think about the lower half of Tier 1? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.